Dr. Marcus Heller was not supposed to be awake. The chrono on the wall blinked 3:27 local station time, the kind of hour when even machines seemed to sigh. But there he was, crouched under a flickering light in Bay 12, welding a prosthetic limb that hummed with quiet rebellion. "Hold still, kiddo," he said, voice muffled behind his face shield. "If this works, you'll be the first alien in the sector who can actually high-five." Lyra blinked her enormous silver eyes, her smooth lavender skin shimmering under the work lights. The child was Vokari, descendants of conquerors who built empires with warships the size of cities, and yet she sat there trembling as though the smallest spark could unravel her. "What is a high five?" she asked, voice soft, clipped with the regal precision of her kind. Marcus lifted the shield, his grin crooked, tired, and impossibly human. "It's a thing we do when something good happens, like saying, 'Hey, we didn't blow up today.'" He demonstrated, slapping his gloved palm into the air. "You just, bam, celebrate being alive." She watched, unsure. Then, awkwardly, she raised her bandaged arm, what remained of it, and for a moment her gaze wavered. The child's war injury had been brutal. The Medroids couldn't replicate the complex neural filaments of a Vokari limb. Their own healers refused to graft replacements on someone of lesser blood. Marcus had heard that phrase and decided immediately that he hated it. He leaned closer, lowering the prosthetic's final joint into place. "Okay, connection phase. You're gonna feel a tingle like holding a live wire in a rainstorm. Don't freak out." "I do not know what that feels like." "Good. Let's keep it that way." The spark came, a faint crackle that smelled faintly of ozone and solder. The arm flexed, then stilled, then moved again, fluid, elegant. Lyra gasped. The metallic fingers opened and closed, glowing faint blue, where her veins met circuits. She looked up at him, disbelief melting into awe. "It works," she whispered. Marcus stretched his back, the vertebrae popping like popcorn. "Of course it works. I followed the sacred principles of human engineering. Trial, error, caffeine, and duct tape." She tilted her head. "Duct tape?" He pointed to a silvery patch near the elbow. "Universal bonding agent. Held spacecraft together before we discovered better glue. Some folks say the universe itself is just God's roll of duct tape." Her small laugh was like a bell struck underwater. Foreign musical. Across the lab, two Vokari attendants exchanged looks of disgust. One whispered, "Primitive tinkering. He treats technology as a toy." The other murmured, "He modifies sacred biocode with personality." Marcus ignored them. He adjusted a dial, watching the arm's joints ripple with precise motion. It wasn't just machinery, it responded. Tiny embedded sensors picked up her muscle impulses, adjusting to her intent. She reached for a beaker, clutched it too tightly, crushed it. Shards skittered across the floor. "Too much power," Marcus muttered. He knelt beside her, hands gentle as he recalibrated the actuator. "Try again. Softer." She obeyed. This time, the grip was delicate, almost human. Her expression, pride, disbelief, a kind of sacred wonder, hit him harder than any applause could. "Feels strange," she said. "Like it knows me." "That's because it's yours. It learns your motion patterns." Her gaze lifted, curious. "You made it learn?" Marcus shrugged. "We humans like when things surprise us. Makes life less boring." Lyra studied her glowing fingers. "The Vokari teach us that control is honor. Surprise is weakness. Maybe that's why you guys look so serious all the time." He winked. "Try smiling once in a while. Might start a cultural revolution." Before she could answer, the lab doors hissed open with a pressurized sigh. The temperature dropped. The Vokari attendants froze. A figure entered, tall, armored in living metal that shimmered like oil. Even the air seemed to hum around her presence. Queen Seraxis, matriarch of the Vokari Empire, conqueror of 12 systems, destroyer of 2. Her shadow fell across the lab like a physical weight. Every Vokari knelt instantly. Marcus remained standing, adjusting his goggles. "Ah," he muttered. "Royalty. That explains the sudden drop in oxygen. Syraxis's voice was deep, layered, resonant. You are the human who crafted forbidden technology for my bloodline. Marcus removed his gloves, wiped his hands on his coat, and nodded. Yep, I'm the idiot who likes helping kids. Her eyes glowed, faintly crimson. That child bore the mark of lineage. To alter her body without imperial sanction is treason under our law. He crossed his arms. She was missing a limb, not breaking a law. Or, do you folks file medical ethics under optional? Gasps rippled through the attendants. Syraxis stepped closer, the scent of ozone intensifying. You presume to lecture me on ethics, human? Marcus's grin never faltered. I don't lecture, Your Majesty. I improvise. Lyra stood abruptly, her prosthetic gleaming. He helped me. He gave me back my hand. Syraxis turned toward her daughter. Because that's what she was, though no one had dared say it aloud. Her stern composure cracked, just slightly. The faintest twitch of emotion flickered behind her golden irises. You feel whole? Lyra nodded. He made it feel like mine. The Queen's gaze snapped back to Marcus. You manipulated Vocari neural code. Such knowledge is beyond your kind. He shrugged. Nah, I watched a few tutorial vids on your datanet. You people really shouldn't leave your encryption keys labeled Admin 123. Even the guards faltered. Syraxis's nostrils flared. You accessed Imperial data with public tutorials? Pretty much. He gestured toward the limb. Then I added some features your version lacked. Emotional sensors, microfeedback loops, snack compartment. Snack compartment. Emergency cookies. Don't judge. For a moment, the Queen simply stared, torn between fury and confusion. Finally, she said quietly, You play with the sacred as if it were clay. He spread his hands. Clay builds civilizations. I just like giving it shape. The silence between them stretched, thick as oil. Then Syraxis turned to her attendants. Leave us. When they had gone, her voice softened, almost human. My empire stands at war's edge. Your kind, humans, are rumored to be volatile, unpredictable. Yet here you stand, crafting comfort. Why? Marcus rubbed the back of his neck. Because comfort's what we do when we're scared. And from what I've seen, your people are terrified of weakness. She studied him as though he were an alien specimen. And you are not? Oh, I'm terrified all the time, he said with a grin. That's why we tell jokes. Laughing's cheaper than therapy. Something flickered at the edge of her lips, not quite a smile, but close enough to make history. You are unlike any creature I've known. Thanks. My mother says the same thing. A console blinked near the wall, interrupting the fragile moment. A transmission scrolled across in harsh crimson symbols. Syraxis's eyes narrowed. Her aide burst through the doors, breathless. Majesty, urgent. The High Command has issued declaration. War protocols enacted. The Union fleet prepares defense. Marcus frowned. War? Over what? The aide hesitated, glancing at the Queen. Syraxis exhaled slowly. They have learned that a human tampered with royal biocode. They consider it an act of aggression. He blinked. Wait, I fix one kid's arm and now we're at war? Her expression hardened again. You have meddled with forces beyond comprehension. The Council demands retribution. He ran a hand through his hair. You people really need a hobby. For a heartbeat, neither spoke. The lab lights flickered under the strain of the orbiting fleet's power draw. Through the viewport, Marcus could see distant flashes, ships mobilizing, the eerie beauty of destruction waiting to happen. Lyra clutched his sleeve, her new hand trembling. Will they hurt you? He forced a crooked smile. They can try. Syraxis turned away, voice low, almost regretful. You have changed something I cannot undo, human. My daughter carries your craft, your mark. My empire will see it as corruption. Then tell them it's compassion, he said quietly. She looked back at him, eyes burning brighter now, like twin suns ready to collapse. Compassion, she murmured. Among my kind, that is the most dangerous weapon of all. The lab shuddered as distant thunder rolled through the metal hull. Engines igniting, fleets rising. Marcus met her gaze. For the first time, the Queen of the Volcari looked uncertain. He exhaled. "Well, Your Majesty," he said softly, "you might want to keep that kid close. Things are about to get messy." Outside, a shadow passed over the moon's surface, a vast silhouette blotting out the stars. The first warship of the Volcari Armada descended, its hull gleaming with the light of impending war. And in the silence that followed, the prosthetic hand in Lyra's lap pulsed once, soft blue, like a heartbeat echoing the start of something far larger than any of them understood. The War Council chamber of the Volcari flagship looked like something out of a cathedral built by perfectionists who'd never met joy. Everything was sharp, polished, symmetrical. Rows of golden obelisks reflected in obsidian floors. The air smelled faintly of ozone and arrogance. In the middle of this sanctified geometry, Dr. Marcus Heller stood in a grease-stained lab coat, holding a mug that read world's okayest engineer. "Do you humans always carry beverage containers into war councils?" asked a nearby general, his voice taut with disbelief. "Only when the coffee's still hot," Marcus said, taking a sip. He glanced around. "Nice decor. Bit gloomy, though. Ever think about curtains?" No one laughed. Of course they didn't. The Volcari didn't do laughter. The Queen sat at the head of a long crystalline table, armored and radiant, every motion deliberate, her expression carved from centuries of command. She didn't look at Marcus immediately. She didn't need to. Her silence was gravity. "Dr. Heller," she said, finally, her voice echoing with the weight of command, "you will explain your actions before the Council of the Empire." He set his mug on the table. "Which ones? I've made a lot of questionable decisions lately." A ripple of outrage went through the room, the hiss of indignant armor. Marcus caught the Queen's gaze, cold as a nova, and shrugged. "Kidding. Mostly." Her eyes narrowed, but there was a flicker there, a trace of reluctant fascination. "Begin with the prosthetic." He leaned on the table, unbothered by the murmurs around him. "Your kid needed an arm. I built one. She can hold things again. Right? Maybe even paint. Seems like a good day's work to me." It was unauthorized interference with royal biocode, a general snapped. "It was heresy." "Funny," Marcus said. "On Earth, we just call it helping." Lyra, seated beside her mother, lowered her gaze but spoke softly. "He saved me, General. I can feel again." The Queen didn't look at her. And yet, his actions have thrown our empire into turmoil. Entire fleets prepare for battle over one child's limb. Marcus sighed. "Then maybe your empire needs a hobby too." The chamber went silent again. Syraxis's jaw tightened, but her tone remained calm. "You mock us, human, yet you stand at the center of a storm your species does not understand. Do you know how close your kind is to annihilation?" He met her gaze steadily. "Closer than you think. We tend to live there." Something shifted in the Queen's face, barely perceptible, but there, perhaps the first hairline fracture in centuries of imperial certainty, the holographic table lit up suddenly, projecting the spiral arms of the galaxy. Tiny red clusters marked mobilized Volcari fleets. Marcus stared, whistling low. "That's a lot of dots. You really don't mess around." "Our enemies have gathered at the border worlds," said a general. "They believe humans will side with the Union." "Will we?" Marcus asked. The Queen's gaze flicked to him. "You tell me. You built a limb that unites machine and life. Perhaps you already fight for them." He snorted. "Lady, I don't fight for anyone. I just fix what's broken." That line hung there for a beat too long. Lyra's new hand glowed faintly under the table. The blue light reflected in the Queen's armor like a heartbeat she tried to ignore. "Your kind confuses me," Syraxis admitted finally. "You build things not for power, but sentiment. You design weapons that heal. You conquer through laughter. What kind of strategy is that?" "The best one," Marcus said. "Nobody knows what to expect." For the first time, the Queen's lips twitched, almost a smile, quickly smothered. "Unpredictability as strength," she murmured. "An empire cannot survive on chaos." Depends on the empire, he replied. Humans survived the 90s. We'll be fine. She frowned. The 90s? Dark time, he said gravely. Synthetic denim, pop music, dial-up internet. We learned to endure horrors beyond imagination. A few of the younger attendants looked at each other, uncertain whether this was humor or confession. Saraxis leaned back, studying him as though he were an alien specimen in a glass jar. Your defiance borders on madness. He smiled. That's where all the good ideas live. The council adjourned in uneasy silence, leaving Marcus and Saraxis alone. The ship's lights dimmed for night cycle, bathing the chamber in soft amber. Through the window wall, the galaxy spun, serene, uncaring. You risk much, speaking so freely to me, she said. Maybe, he answered, but I think you're tired of people being scared of you. Her head tilted, a predator's curiosity. You presume much about what I feel. Occupational hazard. I read faces for a living. Machines don't lie, but people do. She rose, walking slowly toward the viewport. You think I wish for war? I think you wish for control, he said, and losing it scares you more than death. She didn't turn, but her reflection in the glass betrayed her, the smallest tremor in her composure. You are observant for a creature that still fears the dark. We're good at multitasking, he said softly. When she turned back, her expression was unreadable again. Tell me, Marcus Heller, why did you truly help my daughter? What did you hope to gain? He considered, then set the mug down beside her on the table. Nothing. I just hate seeing a kid scared. Doesn't matter what species she is. Where I come from, that's reason enough. Her eyes lingered on the mug, the chipped ceramic absurdly fragile against the obsidian surface. You speak as though compassion were currency. It is, he said, only kind worth anything. Silence again. But it was different now. Less weapon, more invitation. Somewhere deep within the ship, the engines hummed like a distant heartbeat. Saraxis extended her hand. From her palm rose a glowing cube of liquid light. The royal token, she said, it signifies trust between the throne and its chosen ally. You may keep it. He took it, turning it over in his fingers. Pretty. Makes a great paperweight. The queen froze. That artifact represents. Yeah. Symbolism. Don't worry, I'll put it somewhere safe. For a long moment, she simply stared at him. Then, barely audible, came a laugh. Soft, startled, involuntary. It echoed strangely, as though the air itself didn't know what to do with the sound. You are impossible, she said. Thank you. I practice. They stood there in the quiet aftermath, something unspoken growing between them. Curiosity, maybe, or the slow unwinding of millennia of certainty. Then the ship's intercom crackled. Majesty, said a trembling voice. Priority message from High Command. The Union fleet has mobilized. They await your response. Saraxis's face hardened instantly. Prepare the armada. Marcus raised an eyebrow. That's your response? Not even a coffee break first. Her tone turned to steel. They seek to test our strength. We will answer. Yeah, see, that's the problem with tests, he said. Someone always fails. She turned sharply. You think I should do nothing? I think you should do better. Her nostrils flared. But beneath the anger was something else, doubt, the kind that corrodes certainty from within. Your kind speaks of peace, yet your history is written in war. Exactly, he said quietly. So, maybe learn from our mistakes before you make your own. Outside, the stars flickered as fleets assembled. The bridge lights pulsed red, the low hum of engines building to a roar. Lyra appeared at the doorway, clutching a small pack, her prosthetic glowing faintly. Mother, she whispered, must there be war again? Saraxis didn't answer. She looked at her daughter, then at Marcus. Between them, the faint blue light from the prosthetic reflected in their eyes, binding them in silent irony. Human queen, child, all caught in the same impossible moment. Marcus stepped closer, lowering his voice. If you go through with this, it won't just be fleets clashing. It'll be history repeating. She regarded him, eyes sharp and weary. And you, human, will you fight against us? He hesitated, then smiled faintly. Only if you make me late for lunch. Her lips twitched again, then stilled. The comms crackled once more. Orders, Majesty? Saraxis turned to the window, watching the cold sweep of her armada ready itself for war. Her hand closed into a fist. Send word to the Union, she said softly. The Vokari Empire moves at dawn. Marcus exhaled, the weight of inevitability settling over them both. I hope, she murmured, still facing the stars, your kind is as unpredictable as you claim human. Otherwise, the galaxy will burn before it learns your humor. He picked up his mug, half empty now and cooling fast. Oh, we're unpredictable, all right, he said. You'll see. The lights dimmed, engines howled, and the flagship turned toward the horizon of stars, toward war. Somewhere behind her regal poise, the Queen's eyes flickered once, uncertain, and for the first time in her reign, Saraxis wondered not whether she would win, but whether humanity's madness might already be winning her. The sky above Earth shimmered with colors not found in any natural spectrum. A fleet, massive, luminous, and entirely too dramatic, hung in orbit, blocking out half the sunlight over the Atlantic. Every news feed, live stream, and panicked TikTok captured the same scene. The Zolorians, the most feared empire in the Orion Arm, had arrived inside a fortified hangar in Nevada. General Avery, Grizz. Donovan was trying very hard not to throw his coffee mug. You mean to tell me, he growled, that this is about a kid's prosthetic? Dr. Milo Harper, mechanical engineer and recent intergalactic viral sensation, winced. Technically, it's about a limb upgrade, sir. You know, biomechanics, adaptive AI feedback, cute stickers. The general slammed a fist on the table, rattling the hollow displays. Their queen wants to declare war because of a sticker? Milo scratched the back of his neck. It was a unicorn sticker, with glitter. Their royal insignia happens to resemble, well, that unicorns, but... For a long, terrible moment, no one spoke. Then Colonel Vega muttered, We're all gonna die because of Lisa Frank. Above them, through the glass ceiling, a crimson streak split the clouds, a descending Zolorian battle cruiser. Milo's stomach dropped. Oh, good, he said, voice flat. They brought the mothership. The hangar doors trembled as the vessel landed. Its hull gleamed with bioluminescent veins, shifting hues like a living creature. From it descended a formation of armored aliens, tall and graceful, with translucent carapaces that glimmered in iridescent blues. At their center strode Queen Chara herself, the same queen who had hours ago threatened to turn Earth into a cautionary moon. Her gaze locked onto Milo immediately. You, she hissed, voice like a chorus of metal strings. The human who violated royal sanctity with sparkles. Milo tried to smile. Technically, your radiance, it was more of a tasteful shimmer. Gasps echoed through both species present. The queen blinked, confusion flickering briefly before she composed herself. You mock the Zolorian crown. I don't mock. Milo protested. Hands up. It was an act of compassion. Your child. My heir, she snapped. The future of my people. Had lost a limb, he continued undeterred. I built her a new one. She laughed for the first time in months. That's not mockery. That's called humanity. For a flicker of a second, her mandibles quivered. Not in anger, but uncertainty. The general leaned forward. Your Majesty, Earth doesn't want war. But if it comes... Shara raised a hand. War is inevitable. You trespassed upon the royal line. At that, the hangar doors burst open. A tiny voice squeaked. Mama? All heads turned. The alien princess, the same one Milo had helped, stood there in her shimmering prosthetic limb, glowing with holographic circuitry and little hologram butterflies. She waved shyly, and one of the butterflies fluttered to her mother's shoulder. The entire room froze. Shara-esque composure faltered as her daughter hugged her leg. Mama, look, she said proudly, flexing the new limb. It works perfectly, and the human taught it to dance. The prosthetic kicked into motion, wiggling rhythmically to an old Earth pop song still playing faintly from Milo's workstation. Uptown Funk. For the first time in recorded galactic history, the Queen of Zaloria looked utterly, completely dumbfounded. "Dance," she whispered. The child nodded, performing a spin that would have made any Earth talent show judge cry. He made it sing too. As if on cue, the prosthetic chimed, "Don't believe me, just watch." The Queen blinked once, twice. Then, slowly, she turned toward the human engineer who was now standing very still. "You taught my daughter funk?" Milo coughed. "Cultural exchange program?" That might have been the moment peace was possible. But peace is fragile, and the Zalorian military was not built for fragility. Outside, orbiting ships misinterpreted the Queen's delay as an attack. Dozens of cannons charged, energy spooling like suns being born. Earth's defense satellites went online, and within seconds the planet's skies turned into a battlefield waiting for a spark. A single misfire, a tremor from an overeager Zalorian lieutenant, sent a plasma bolt screaming into orbit. It didn't hit a city. It hit a SpaceX satellite. Within 0.2 seconds, Twitter went offline. That was when the humans declared war. General Donovan's voice boomed across the war room. Enough! For years, humanity had avoided direct confrontation with the galaxy's greater powers. But when the Queen's forces targeted Earth's orbital grid, the United Terran Command decided to drop its biggest secret, Project Homebrew. "Deploy the civilian fleets," the general barked. The Queen sneered. "You send civilians? Pathetic." "Oh, they're not soldiers," Donovan replied. "They're gamers." In orbit, thousands of repurposed ships, piloted remotely by the global gaming community, booted up. The controls mirrored old arcade rigs, complete with neon HUDs and power-up effects. Within seconds, millions of players logged in worldwide. "Operation Pew Pew begins in 5, said Donovan, deadpan. The Queen frowned. "Pew, pew." Milo grinned. "You'll see." The first wave of Zalorian cruisers met the swarm of human fighters, a chaotic mix of drones, civilian craft, and repurposed mining vessels painted with memes and graffiti. One had "Han shot first" scrawled across its hull. Another blared "Danger Zone" at full volume through vacuum-encoded speakers. The Zalorians opened fire. The humans responded with overwhelming stupidity. Instead of formal tactics, the human fleets zigzagged, spun in circles, spammed fake distress calls, and overloaded Zalorian sensors with memes of cats in helmets. One drone broadcast a looped recording of Rick Astley's "Never Gonna Give You Up." The Queen's commanders shouted in panic. "They're jamming our targeting systems with emotional audio signatures. Is that a man singing about not giving someone up?" "Yes, ma'am." "And it's working?" "Yes, ma'am." Within 20 minutes, the Zalorian battle formations disintegrated into confusion. Their flagship AI crashed from exposure to contradictory human slang. "Yo, yeet," and "based" apparently caused a fatal syntax loop. Meanwhile, down on Earth, Milo stood beside the Queen, watching the chaos unfold on the holomap. "This is madness," she whispered. He smiled faintly. "No, Your Majesty. This is humanity." A chorus of explosions bloomed across the screen as the Queen's remaining fleet blinked out of existence. Not destroyed, but surrendering to a coordinated barrage of memes and system overloads. The war, if it could be called that, was over in 58 minutes and 42 seconds. Silence fell over the command center. The Queen's expression shifted from disbelief to awe. "You ended an empire's war in less than one rotation of your moon." "Yes," said Milo. "We had to Netflix autopauses after an hour." The Queen blinked again. "Netflix? It's like your Interstellar Council," Milo said, "but with better drama." Her daughter giggled, tugging her hand. "Mama, can I stay with the human a little longer? He said he'd teach me to moonwalk." The Queen stared at her child, then at the human who had built her a limb, taught her funk, and somehow ended a war without firing a proper shot. Slowly, reverently, she said, "Perhaps we have misjudged your species." General Donovan smirked. "That's what they all say, right before asking us to fix their Wi-Fi." In the distant orbit, a single Zalorian beacon remained active, recording everything. A soft pulse traveled through deep space toward the galactic core, carrying one chilling message to the rest of the universe. Do not provoke the humans. They weaponize absurdity. Down on Earth, Milo exhaled, looking up at the stars. Well, he said, that escalated quickly. The Queen regarded him silently, her features unreadable. Then, with a faint smile, she said, "You have not yet seen escalation, human." And outside, unseen beyond the stratosphere, something vast stirred. An empire regrouping, not to fight, but to learn. The sky flickered again, not with war this time, but curiosity. And humanity, ever unpredictable, was already queuing up Eye of the Tiger. Dawn broke over the Nevada desert, painting the sky in bruised gold and dusty rose. The war, or what passed for one, was over. Satellites were being rebooted, memes had become classified military assets, and somewhere in orbit, the most powerful alien queen in the galaxy was learning how to apologize. Inside the human base, chaos had taken on an oddly festive tone. Soldiers lounged with coffee mugs emblazoned with "I survived the 1-hour war." Engineers danced in corridors. Someone projected Rick Astley's face on a 20-story screen, the new anthem of victory looping endlessly. Milo Harper, exhausted and disheveled, sat at a workbench repairing a coffee maker the Zolorians had accidentally vaporized. "We've achieved world peace," he muttered, "and I still can't get decent espresso." Behind him, a shimmer of light bent the air, and Queen Chara appeared, stepping through a teleportation gate in regal silence. Every human in the hangar froze mid-motion. Even the Rickroll stopped mid-chorus. Chara stood, tall, her bioluminescent skin dimmer than before, her ceremonial crest lowered. But it wasn't submission. It was something rarer among rulers. Humility. "Dr. Harper," she said, her tone steady but quieter than he'd ever heard it. "I have come to make amends." Milo turned, blinking at her. "You're apologizing?" She inclined her head, the motion sharp and deliberate. "It appears your people possess a form of warfare we did not anticipate, one that weaponizes illogic and laughter. Against such tactics, no empire can truly prevail." General Donovan crossed his arms, a smirk tugging at his scarred face. "So, you're surrendering?" Chara's gaze flicked to him, cool and imperious. "No, General. We are evolving." She stepped closer to Milo, her expression softening. "You gave my daughter something I could not, joy after loss. You gave her a limb that sings and dances, yes, but more than that, you gave her the courage to play again, to feel again." Milo rubbed the back of his neck. It was nothing really, just a few servos, AI tuning, and a lot of glitter. At that, the Queen actually smiled, a strange, fragile gesture that looked like light bending through glass. "Your glitter ended a war, human. You should not underestimate the power of your absurdities." From behind, Colonel Vega whispered to the general, "We're really going to sign peace because of disco and glitter, huh?" "Shut up," Donovan murmured. "This is history." Chara turned to him. "General Donovan, the Zolorian Empire proposes a formal cessation of hostilities. In recognition of your planet's unconventional genius, we will draft what your diplomats may call a treaty." Milo raised an eyebrow. "A treaty about memes?" She considered the word. "Yes, meme treaty." He chuckled. "You're serious?" "I have never been more so." 2 hours later, inside the UN Orbital Hall, the first intergalactic peace conference in human history was underway. The room hummed with anticipation. On one side, human representatives in crisp suits and military uniforms. On the other, Zolorian nobles shimmering like living jewels. Between them stood a long glass table, glowing softly with holographic runes and projected cat gifs, an accidental side effect of Earth tech integration. Chara spoke first. "Henceforth, our empires will share cultural knowledge in peace. No longer will misunderstandings lead to bloodshed." Donovan nodded, and in return, humanity agrees not to weaponize memes unless provoked. A ripple of laughter passed through the humans. The Queen tilted her head. "Humor. Always you laugh." "It's how we survive," Milo said quietly. She looked at him for a long moment. Perhaps that is what makes you dangerous. As the treaty neared completion, something unexpected happened. The young princess, her prosthetic glimmering with neon circuitry, wandered up to the table. She pressed a button on the limb's interface and projected a small hologram of a dancing unicorn. Everyone paused. The child giggled. This is how humans say sorry, right? Milo knelt beside her. Close enough, kiddo. Shara's eyes softened. Then let it be our symbol. And just like that, the treaty between Earth and the Zalorian Empire was sealed, its holographic signature taking the shape of a glittering, prancing unicorn surrounded by binary stars. But not everyone was ready for peace. High above, a Zalorian admiral watched the broadcast from orbit, fury burning behind his crystalline eyes. We surrender to dancing? To music? To humor? He slammed a clawed hand onto the console. Our queen has been bewitched by chaos. Another officer hesitated. Sir, reports indicate human civilians have begun sending friendship transmissions. Thousands of them. What kind of transmissions? The officer swallowed. Memes, sir. Endless memes. The admiral glared. Then we will. Before he could finish, his ship's AI froze. A massive pop-up filled the entire screen. Congratulations. You are the 1 millionth visitor. Claim your prize. Every system locked. The entire fleet ground to a halt. Down below, Shari's communicator pinged. She read the report, then turned to Milo. Your people have already begun diplomacy. He smiled. Welcome to the internet, Your Majesty. That night, after the conference, Shara stood alone on a balcony overlooking the desert. The human night sky glittered differently than any she'd known, Messier, unfiltered, alive. Milo joined her quietly. You did good today, he said. She didn't look at him. My advisors call it weakness. My people will call it surrender. He leaned on the railing beside her. They'll call it history, eventually. We all do. For a long moment, the only sound was wind across sand. Then the queen said softly, Tell me, human, what happens when laughter runs out? Milo thought about it, the question heavy in the quiet. Then he said, That's when we start making more of it. She turned to face him then, truly face him, and something in her gaze shifted. Not regal, not alien, just understanding. Perhaps that is your true weapon, she murmured. Laughter? No, she said, her voice like distant thunder softening into rain. Hope. The treaty was ratified the next morning. Across both worlds, celebrations broke out. Humans dancing in the streets, Zalorians projecting holographic light shows in orbit. The meme treaty became a galactic sensation. Even the AI of distant empires tuned in, trying to decode the strange human power called funny. And in one quiet corner of the UN base, Milo watched the little princess teaching her mother the moonwalk. The queen stumbled once, twice, then managed a hesitant glide. The child laughed, delighted. Milo grinned. Not bad for first try. Shara straightened, regal as ever, but her voice was warm. Careful, human. I may challenge you to a dance duel for galactic supremacy. Lady, he said with mock solemnity, I was born for that. As laughter echoed across the hall, alien and human together. The stars above shimmered brighter, as if the universe itself were amused. For the first time in history, peace wasn't written in blood or fear. It was written in rhythm, absurdity, and the unbreakable truth that sometimes the most powerful thing in the galaxy was a joke well-timed. And somewhere, far beyond the reach of any empire, the cosmos itself chuckled softly, because humanity had done it again. They'd turned war into punchline.